I had a very interesting experience at the Jerusalem Post. To tell you the truth, I never specifically saw myself working there until I saw a job that came up, sent my resume and happened to get it. I got to work with a lot of journalists, and it was definitely a lot of growth, and I also learned a bit about being objective, and I learned that like a good journalist will ask tough questions to people on both sides of an argument, both sides of a political spectrum, with questions from totally opposing views. And that was something, it was definitely a lot of growth. There's a few people that I worked with at the Post who were later a lot more famous. A notable example is Ron Dermer, who is currently a cabinet member in the Netanyahu government, was an advisor for Netanyahu for a number of years, and for 8 years was Israeli ambassador to the United States. Another example is Tom Rose, who was a publisher, was later advisor to Mike Pence as vice president. A whole lot of different experiences merging into one. Like when I was growing up, you had print media, you had radio media, and you had television news media. With the internet and multimedia, like all this very much gets integrated. Like you can go on a television station's news website and not even have any video or any audio and read something. You can go on a newspaper's website and listen to a podcast or view a video interview, and so on. So in this short period of time, so the newspaper Jerusalem Post decided to do a project that they called Jerusalem Post Radio. So it's a newspaper having a radio station, but they did it as like a separate entity. Like today, a newspaper can't really do that because it's just expected with the whole multimedia that they'd have the type of things we were doing. There was another major advantage is that it was before the age of social media. So you had newspapers and like conventional media with properly trained journalists using the internet as a medium, which was a very, very good thing, but you didn't quite have social media taking off, undermining information at the same level. The reason I'm saying that, there's a lot of arguments about standards of journalists or standards of newspapers or standards of news organizations, but there's at least a certain set of professional ethics or a certain set of standards when it comes to professional news organizations. A lot of legitimate arguments about those standards, I acknowledge that. But when it comes to social media, it's everyone saying whatever they think, and it very, very much takes off out of control with a lot of misinformation. So in some ways I miss that particular age. Unfortunately, the archives, like all the interviews that were recorded, have been lost in the archives. So I can't get actual content today. So what I want to do is interview with team members, anyone who's willing to interview about their experience, and let it be recorded and not be totally lost in history, and people can share their various different viewpoints. There was also a few famous people I met that I hadn't heard of before. When I started working on it, someone walks into a room, introduces himself, Bill Crystal. I'm like, huh. And I find out, he was Chief of Staff to Dan Quayle, who was Vice President to George Herbert Walker Bush. There was something very, very funny, because journalists are so used to people like that coming into the office and interviewing people like that. So what was the excitement? Not a VIP being in the room, but there was a lot of free food because of it. That was the real excitement in the office. So I'm saying this to emphasize when you get used to that type of stuff, real excitement becomes things like free food.